What if the answer to some of the world's biggest problems, from climate change to the loneliness epidemic, wasn't a new policy or a new app, but a totally new place to call home? Today, we're going to break down a really bold idea for just that, a blueprint for what's being called the sanctuary suburb.
You know, you'd think a vision this big would start in some fancy boardroom, but it didn't. It actually began in the ashes of a home. After a fire destroyed his house, the founder, Mudassar Malik, asked himself this one really deep question. And the answer he came up with, well, it might just change how all of us live.
So let's start there. The origin story of this whole project is really key, because it's not just about architecture. It's about a search for sanctuary that snowballed into a blueprint for the entire world.
So from that one question, born from a personal crisis, came the answer: One Lake Drive. This is the flagship, the prototype, the first real-world example of this new idea. It's designed to be a tangible solution, not just for one family, but for, well, all of us. Now let's zoom out and see how this very personal mission is trying to tackle some massive global problems. Because, and this is important, this isn't just about building a nicer house. Nope. It's about responding to a whole set of huge, interconnected challenges that, let's be honest, our current way of life just isn't solving.
Okay, so the blueprint basically says we're facing four massive crises all at the same time. You've got the climate crisis, right? Extreme weather pushing people from their homes. Then there's the housing crisis, a massive global shortage of decent places to live. And then the social crisis. We've got all this technology connecting us, but somehow we're lonelier than ever. And finally, the technological crisis, the rise of AI, which is, a huge fork in the road for humanity.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, let's just take one of those, the housing crisis. We're talking about more than 1.6 billion people affected by the global housing deficit. That's a staggering number. So when the problems are this big, the solution has to be pretty radical, right?
All right, so what is the solution? What's the big idea? The project's answer is something totally new: the sanctuary suburb. It's meant to be a new kind of real estate, a new way to think about community.
And this whole sanctuary suburb idea rests on three really important pillars. First, it has to be ecologically regenerative. That means it doesn't just not harm the environment, it actively heals the land it's on. Super important. Second, it's got to be socially cohesive. The whole design is meant to fight that loneliness epidemic by actually encouraging real community. And third, it needs to be spiritually nourishing, grounded in some universal wisdom.
Okay, so that all sounds great, but how do you actually do that? How do you make it real? Well, it all boils down to one core repeatable building block: the village per hectare. Think of it like a universal, self-sustaining blueprint that you can basically copy and paste anywhere in the world.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's zoom right in and look at the DNA of this village. What are the actual design choices and the tech that makes this whole thing tick?
The very first principle is a total flip of how we use land. A full 75%, 3/4 of every single hectare is left alone. It's preserved and dedicated to nature. We're talking ecological systems, food forests, water recycling, the whole 9 yards.
And so, what about the people? Well, in stark contrast, all the human stuff, every single home, every path, every community space, is built on just 25% of the land. It's this super compact footprint that actually allows nature to flourish all around the community.
So, you're probably wondering, how do you fit an entire community into such a tiny footprint without it feeling like a crowded concrete jungle? The answer is this really cool concept they call dignified density. The big idea is to give you the efficiency of high-density living, but without losing the things we all need: privacy, a little slice of nature, and real community. And they do it with a very specific kind of architecture.
The building itself is what they call a vertical village, and it's inspired by the famous Habitat 67 building. It's made up of about 300 modular homes, or ulus. But here's the genius part. The way they're stacked, kind of like a checkerboard, means that every single home gets its own private green terrace. No exceptions. The design also has these sky streets and shared spaces woven throughout to help you naturally bump into your neighbors and build connections. And holding this all together is a seriously powerful ecological engine. It's got these closed-loop sponge city water systems, so basically every drop gets recycled. There's a net-zero solar microgrid, so it's energy independent, a multi-layered permaculture food forest for growing its own food, and the whole thing is designed so there's literally no waste. Every output from one system is an input for another. And then there's the tech layer, and this is where it gets really unique. They're building something called a sacred AI.
Think of it as an ethical guide, a sort of digital chaplain that's been trained on global wisdom texts and philosophy. The core principle here is that it's a scribe, not a sovereign. What does that mean? It means it might help optimize the water system or offer up some relevant philosophical ideas for a community meeting, but it never makes the big decisions. All the critical choices are still made by the humans living there.
Okay, so we've got the blueprint for one village. It sounds amazing. But how do you take this from a single prototype in Delaware and turn it into a global movement?
The plan for scaling is basically a franchise model. Instead of trying to build every single one of these villages themselves, which would take forever, the plan is to license the entire blueprint, the architecture, the ecosystems, the sacred AI, to developers all over the world. They're calling it the Canon brand, and this is what allows it to grow really fast, without needing insane amounts of capital up front.
And this isn't just a dream on paper. The plan is already moving. This chart here shows you how they're spending their initial $7 million seed round. And what you'll notice is that 75%, a huge chunk, is going directly into building the physical thing, the site, the infrastructure, the modular homes. This shows they're really focused on proving this works in the real world first. The rest is going into that unique digital platform and the sacred AI.
The rollout is planned in 3 clear phases. Step 1 for the next couple of years is just perfecting the prototype, get it right. Step 2 is to launch the franchise model nationally, starting with North America. And then step 3 is global expansion, and this is where the vision gets even bigger. It moves beyond just building and into a whole new kind of diplomacy.
And this quote really captures that ultimate vision. The project's goal is to become a center for what they call sacred diplomacy. The idea is to invite every nation to send not a politician or a general, but its wisest champion. A poet, a healer, an ecologist, to come and actually build the future together.
Which really leaves us with this final, pretty profound thought. This project isn't just a plan for new suburbs. It's a proposal for a whole new kind of global leadership. What if the solutions we're all looking for won't come from our usual centers of power, but from new sanctuaries of wisdom? It's definitely a powerful question to think about.